Okay, this is the ASA lab, security lab. We're going to be working through some steps with the ASA firewall to see the different ways it can work. So the first thing we're going to do is use the ASA in its default config. With the default config, it will give out IP addresses and allow traffic out of the network and allow the return traffic back into the network, but nothing else will work from the outside in. So in theory, you could convince somebody that you're some sort of security expert, order them an ASA, plug it in the default config, and be like, wow, look at that, I'm so smart. So for the connections for the ASA, we're going to plug interface 0 into the hack network, and we're going to plug one of our PCs into the port 1. First thing we want to do when we get connected with the console cable is make sure that the ASA is in the factory default configuration. And the way we're going to do that is we'll look at what the config looks like. So when you get in, you type enable. There is no password in the default config, so just hit enter. If it asks for a password, then it's probably not in the default config. Once you get in, type show run. A couple things we'll want to look at. Ethernet 0 should be in VLAN 2. It should have the IP address for VLAN 1 of 192.168.1.1. The VLAN 2 should be set to get an IP address from DHCP. So if we look at those things, and those things are all set that way, it is most likely in the default configuration, because most of the config changes we make, we take it out of the default configuration and change those IP addresses. So if those IP addresses are correct, you're probably in the default configuration. So what you should have done is you should have plugged it in, and if you do ipconfig/all, verify that you have a 192.168.1 address. In this case, I have 192.168.1.6, 1.1 for my gateway, and it's also acting as a DHCP server, as we can see. So in theory, I should be able to get out to the internet now, but oh no, it didn't work. So if we look back here at the DNS servers, we don't have a DNS server yet. So part of the way this works is that the ASA learns the DNS server it should use from DHCP. So in this case, I had plugged the PC into the ASA before the external interface had come up. So the external interface had not yet learned that DNS server information, so it was unable to provide it. This happens all the time in the lab, so that's why I demonstrated it not working. So if that happens, you can do a release and renew, and you should get the IP address, and I am connected remotely, so that was a really bad idea. So you should be able to get an IP address when you renew your IP address. You should be able to get the DNS server address, and I just actually typed in on the Windows machine ipconfig/renew. And now hopefully my remote desktop client will reconnect, and we can see what I was talking about. I'm connected remotely, so I can do the screen recording on my Mac like I always do, instead of trying to figure out how to do it on the Windows machines in the lab. So we'll try to reconnect now. So hey, check that out. Nothing like unexpected consequences of changing the network. So now if we go back up and look, now we have DNS servers. So now if I try to go out to the internet, hey, check that out. I got out to the internet, and I could search for things. So that is something that happens pretty much all the time in the lab. People connect their PC to the ASA before, and when I say connect, I mean the Ethernet cable to the ASA before they have the external interface connected and up. So what happens, again, to review, the ASA gives us an IP address from DHCP, but it does not yet know what DNS server to give out because it has not learned that information itself. So that's the first part of the lab. Pretty simple. Plug port 0 into the hack network, port 1, plug your PC in. Make sure you are in the default config. If you're not in the default config, you need to reset to the factory defaults. There'll probably be another video to show you how to do that. So that's part 1.